One of my inner circle boys hit me up recently and he said, "Hey man, I've been struggling because he was in a sales position, good job, and he was doing okay. But there was another position that opened up in the same company on the marketing side. And he reached out to me to get some advice. And he said, I want to take the marketing job because the marketing comes a little easier to me. I'm a little better at marketing naturally. But there's a part of me that wants to be a man, grow my character, develop a little more, and keep the sales job. Even though the sales job doesn't come as easily to me, I want to keep the sales job and say no to the marketing job because the marketing job feels like the easy way out. And the path of manhood and growth and development is the road less traveled. It is growing yourself, right? Leaning into those weaknesses and bearing it and growing and developing. So that's a fair question, right? Because he said, I'm gonna feel like a little bit of a something that starts with a B and ends with an itch. I'm gonna feel like I'm wussing out if I go the easy way, right? I totally see where he's coming from. So for context, guys, some of y'all don't know this. In my cell phone, I have the contact information of multiple billionaires. Okay. Obviously, I'm not a billionaire. Well, it's not obvious. Yeah, it's probably pretty obvious. I'm not a billionaire, but I do have the contact information of several billionaires in my phone. Okay. Those are industry guys who have made money from quick service restaurants, oil, real estate, that type of thing. And I've accumulated that information and those contacts over the years in various different careers. So for those of you who don't know, I've worked in the Walmart World Headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas, on the marketing team, on executive escalations team. I've had my own marketing agency where I served a lot of the big retailers in the area. So things like taglines for end cap displays, websites, packaging manuals, pamphlets selling anything from services, app development to pipes for drainage systems, right? So I've done a lot of marketing. Most recently, I was with a company called Seven Brew Coffee. There's probably one being built near you if you don't already have one, but I started with them when they had 0 locations, and then they now have over 400, I believe, nationwide. And I left as the director of marketing communications. So in a relatively short amount of time, I've scaled a bunch of different ladders. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that to validate as someone who has been in a startup. And there's actually experiences I didn't even mention with all that, but I've been in a startup. I've done the college thing. I made straight A's, perfect 4.0. I've done the traveling deal. I've been paid salary. I've been paid hourly. I've been paid by commission. I've been a 1099, right? I've started my own business. I've done a lot of the things and I've managed a lot of people. I've opened a lot of locations in my businesses and in the career things that I've done. And so I've seen a few things. And throughout all of those careers, I noticed that I kept doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over. And that was, I was a coach. I was a mentor. I was the advice guy, the guy that people came to when they had questions. I didn't ever mean to become that when I set out, but that's always who I became. And this is all relevant for later, okay? This is all relevant for later, so hang with me. Going back to my homie, my inner circle guy who reached out to me. And by the way, if you want to be a part of the inner circle, let me know. We can talk about it. But he reached out to me with this question, right? Do I take the easy way? Do I take the marketing job that comes easier to me? Or do I be a real man, not be a pansy, stick it out with the sales job and go through that growth, right? That comes with taking the hard path. Very fair question. Here's what I told him. And I want you guys to hear this because there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of questions and shiny object syndrome that happens with younger guys. And when I say younger, I mean literally anything from like 15 all the way up to like early 30s. I would still say you're a younger guy in that space. When you start getting late 20s, early 30s, you really start to kind of solidify the type of man that you are. And that is actually evident even earlier. It's just harder for you to see earlier. But any time in that age range, I would still say you're a younger guy. So I'm speaking to younger guys here and or guys that are just earlier in their career. So maybe you're past 30, but you never really have specialized in anything and you've kind of bounced around from here to there and you still feel like you're at the beginning of the career. This is for you too, okay? This is what I told my brother who reached out to me. I referenced a movie that I really like. And I like it for kind of nostalgic reasons. Not that it's an old movie, but sentimental reasons. Let's put it that way. And it's Apollo Creed, right? And I think it was second or third one, but there's this scene in which everything that Creed had been working toward came to fruition. And this is a boxing movie, right? Apollo Creed. Sort of like a sequel to the Rocky movies, okay? With Michael B. Jordan. So there's this scene where he's entering the big fight of the movie, right? The final fight. And his wife is walking out and she's singing a song. Like fighters they have walkout music, right? They walk out to this music and there's entourage that comes with them. Their team, their coach, their corner. She is the music, which is so cool, right? She's the one singing the song to walk out to, which is super epic. His wife, right? So she's coming out singing this song, which is his walkout music. And then he comes out and he's locked in. I mean, you can see the fire in his eyes. He's ready to go. And he's approaching the ring, right? Ready to get into the fight of his life, okay? Pause. He doesn't know how much Bitcoin is, okay? He doesn't know how the yen is comparing to the US dollar. He doesn't know how much Nvidia stock is. He doesn't do drop shipping on the side, all right? He doesn't do Amazon FBA. He's not a coach who coaches other coaches how to coach. He doesn't have a marketing agency that he scales people with, okay? He doesn't do any of that. He does boxing. He eats it, he sleeps it, he lives it, he breathes it. Okay? Y'all need to hear this. Y'all need to hear this. When you're young, unless you're just a crazy prodigy at something, then you may not know what your thing needs to be, and that's okay. I didn't know what my thing needed to be until my late 20s. My late 20s is when I realized what my thing needed to be, okay? To have all these different things going is not helpful to you. You look at the millionaires and you read the statistics. Oh, millionaires have 7 streams of income, so I should too. Yeah, but that's not how they got to be millionaires, okay? They diversified after they made their bag, all right? In the same way, you need to lock in and focus on your thing. You need to figure out what your thing is and then exploit it. Okay, so here's what I told my friend, my inner circle guy. I said, do you think that Michael B. Jordan's boxer character, Apollo Creed, do you think that that professional, best of the best of the best, world champion boxer, do you think that he was good at boxing naturally? I said, yeah. All right. He could have pursued tennis. He could have pursued basketball, and he might have been okay at those things. He might even have been good at those things. He might even have been great at those things because that athletic ability might have transferred, right? But you know what he was going to be the best at? The thing that came easier to him. The thing that came easier to him, which was boxing, was going to be the thing that he could be best at. And yeah, I understand that you want to take the hard path, and you should. But sometimes the hard path is what comes easiest to you. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Sometimes the hard path is what comes easiest to you because you enter the easy path, something that you're naturally talented at, and that's going to take you to the place where you can give your best performance. I'm not saying it's going to be easy the whole way. No. I'm saying that the easy path can accelerate you to a higher level quicker. And at that higher level is where your best effort is going to be required. It's like a video game, right? Any video game, not that I advocate for playing video game, that's another conversation, but I know you've all played them. So think about your video game, right? And you're leveling up. The first few levels are easy, man. And it's even easier if you know how to specialize in a certain skill or a certain trait or strategy that you can really exploit. The first few levels are easy. So if you take the easy path and you develop your character and you level up their stats all in like one thing, like archery, right? Or maybe you're the magician, or maybe you're the swordsman, or whatever it is, and you're leveling up in that specific category, then those things are going to come easier to you. But they're also going to take you to a place very quickly where you have to give your best effort and you have to lock in, and you're going to step into a ring of champions. And trust me, that is not going to be easy. That's where you're really going to be able to try your hardest. Because you might think, oh, I'm really good with swords, but man, maybe I should really step up my archery because that's my weak point. I'm not saying to ignore your archery necessarily, but I am saying the swordsmanship is where you're going to have to try your hardest in the end, even though it came easier to you at first. You won't be able to give your best effort at archery because that's not where you're naturally gifted. The very best maximum recruitment of all of your faculties is going to come with the thing that is coming most naturally to you. The thing that God made you the best at naturally. Okay? So it's a long way of saying I told him, hey dude, take the marketing job. I know it feels like the easy way out, but if you exploit that and you chase that, you're going to level up faster and you're going to get to the higher level quicker. And at that higher level, trust me, you're going to have plenty of hard things you can do there. Okay? So here's some takeaways for you guys. You need to be leveling up your character. Okay? So again, if you're a younger man, anywhere from 15 to early 30s, or just starting out in your career, maybe had a few resets and you're feeling like you're new, this is for you. You need to find your edge. God has given you some kind of an edge. Okay? Everybody has an edge. I'm not saying that you're going to be the best at it. Guys, it's very unlikely that I'm going to become Tony Robbins. I think right now we got like 180 something subscribers, and Tony Robbins was doing way better than me at my age, okay? He's like a coach, right? Just like me. All right? I appreciate all of my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it. Makes me very happy. I love to see that my message is reaching people, okay? If you want to like the video too, great, but I really love the subscribes. All right, so Tony, he's probably way farther ahead of me. That's what I'm trying to say is I'm probably not going to be the best coach that there is. It's probably not going to happen, all right? But coaching is probably the best thing that I can do still, right? The reality is we can't all be the best. Number one is number one. There's only one of them, okay? Statistically, I'm probably not going to be the number one coach in the world, but I'm going to try to be. Hey, watch. Y'all hang with me. I'm going to do my best, all right? And I'm going to exploit that because God has shown me over my career that coaching is probably my thing. So I got a little paper I'm going to talk about later. But you need to be finding your edge early, okay? So what does that mean? It means that you should not expect to become This broccoli head, clean shaven, with abs, 21-year-old millionaire, that there's like 100 of these guys on Instagram. Okay, there's like 100 of them. They all kind of look the same. They all scream about discipline and F motivation, and they got this beautiful girl by their side, and they got the Lamborghini Huracan or Aventador or whatever they have, and they got the chains, and they live in Miami, and they have scaled some kind of business, and they can teach you to do the same. Okay, it seems like they're everywhere. Guys, you have to understand, those are prodigies, okay? They are not like you. You are not like them, right? Now, even with 180 subscribers that might watch this, statistically still, none of you are going to be that, okay? You have to understand how rare that is. And I'm not trying to be mean, because I'm speaking to myself too. You got to know where you're at, and you got to stop looking at guys that are the best of the best and thinking that the same things that worked for them will work for you, because that's not how that works. Okay, they're truly built different, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay. It's all right. God has a plan for you that's going to be really good for you. You have to believe that. You have to have faith in that. Okay, so don't get allured by shiny object syndrome. The guys you see on Instagram are not the top 1% of entrepreneurs. They're the top 0.01%. Do you hear me? They're the top 0.01%. And then they're not even the top 0.01%. They're the top 1% of the top 0.01%, because the 0.01% don't all pull out their cameras and broadcast their success to everybody. Only 10% of them do. And then of those 10%, only a tenth of those get picked up by the algorithm. Do you see? Stop thinking that Instagram on your phone is reality. It is, but it's just a very, 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 very small sliver of reality, okay? So stop comparing yourself to those guys and thinking that what worked for them will work for you, because it won't, okay? I would love for one of you to prove me wrong, but statistically, you're not going to. If I was talking to 1 million subs, then sure, a few of you would, but like, no, that's just not the case statistically, all right? Finding your edge is the most important thing you can do. And the way you do it is by trying different things, okay? If you find something that sticks, run it. And even in that, it's not that your edge is going to be an electrician. You might be an electrician for 10 years, but that's not your edge. Your edge is something that you do really well as an electrician. And it's not, oh, I'm the cleanest at my job and my wiring is all perfect and I never mess up and I'm meticulous. That's not your edge. It's going to be something about your process. It's going to be something about how you solve problems. It's going to be something about how you work with the other electricians on your team. Okay, it's going to be something that's more abstract and intangible, and something that could have worked for somebody even before electricity was even invented. Right? It's going to be something about you. Something about who you are. Just like mine is about coaching. It's about mentorship. That's timeless, you see? God didn't give you a gift for electrical wiring. He gave you a gift that helps you be an electrician. Does that make sense? So you need to find what your edge is. And that may not come to you for a very long time. I don't really know. Some guys, the anomalies, they find it early. Some of us find it in our 30s. Some of us find it in our 40s, okay? Your path, I don't know what your path is going to be. You got to have patience, all right? It's easy to become enchanted with this shiny object and chasing the bag, but what you need to chase is your edge, finding that competitive edge that God gave you, right? Because here's what happens. When you get into your 30s, especially late 20s, early 30s and onward, your character development really starts to lock in. Talking about video games again, you think about like Super Smash Brothers, right? I hope everybody's played that. It's a great video game. Great childhood memories playing that game with my brothers. Okay? So Super Smash, you've got Bowser, you got Peach, you got Link, you got Captain Falcon, you got all these different characters, right? None of them are goated across the board. They all have strengths and weaknesses, and we as humans, as men, are the same, okay? And as you age, your character starts to really get solidified, right? You can teach an old dog new tricks, but the older you get, the harder it is to level up in ways that you're not naturally strong in, okay? You can still do it, but it's not as easy. And you become more stuck and you become more set. And that has advantages. That means you can lock in more on the things that you've already built. Okay, so there's an advantage to that. The disadvantage to that is you can't build new things as easily, right? So it has pros and it has cons. With that in mind, you need to spend your early years figuring out and really working to figure out what is it about me that's different? What is my edge? Because then when you're in your early 30s, like my inner circle guy was that reached out to me, you can recognize, hey, this is what I'm good at. I'm going to exploit this. So in your 20s, you want to be finding what that edge is. And then in your 30s, you want to be exploiting that edge, like I'm doing with coaching and like my boy is with marketing. Okay? I now want to talk to you about the allurement of breaking the matrix and freedom, okay? Because these concepts are connected, all right? These concepts are very connected. You're going to want to escape the 9-to-5 ASAP. How do I know that? Because the algorithm is pretty good and it's going to show me to guys who think like I do, all right? You want to break out of the 9-to-5, escape the matrix, be your own boss, all these things. A lot of guys do. A lot of guys do, okay? And if you don't, then that's fine. And there's a lot of advantages to being in a 9-to-5. One is not better than the other, and I'm about to explain to you why. But before I do, my premise to this, my point here is I want you guys to understand that it's probably better for you to spend your late teens and 20s working for somebody else. That was definitely the case for me. My late teens and early 20s and even my mid 20s, my time was well spent working for somebody else. And here's why. Could I have made a nice bag being an entrepreneur? Quite possibly. And I did make money as an entrepreneur. I did totally do that. But I made more money working for somebody else, and I learned so much more. Because when you're young and when you're just starting out, you have a powerful engine, but its capacity is not what it could be yet. And so you can go fast on your own possibly, but you can go faster and farther for longer when you attach your engine to another train. And that train is already going, it's already got momentum. You can go faster, farther, and more sustainably attaching yourself to another train. And while you're on that other train, you can spend time upgrading your engine. That's how that works. Okay, so, excuse me, if you're on the entrepreneur path, there's going to be less learning and less wisdom from like just watching and more just making mistakes and not really knowing why. Okay, having someone that's over you that can mentor you and help you get better at the thing is very valuable. Having peers in your workplace, having bosses, all those things are really, really helpful. And they will benefit you in your entrepreneurial journey if you decide to break out of the matrix, right? So that's kind of my point. And here's how I'm going to explain it. The reason you want to break out of the matrix is because you want this idea of freedom. You want to be free from the 9-to-5. You want to have time freedom, financial freedom, right? Location freedom. You want to have freedom. Here's what I need you to understand. You are already free. Okay? You are already free. Guys, you don't have to pay your taxes. You don't have to follow the speed limit. You don't have to show up for work. You don't have to go to class. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to respond to your text messages, okay? Now, I'm not advocating for any of that. Don't hear something that I'm not saying. Well, what I am saying is you don't have to do any of that. This word have to, or this phrase have to, is something that's convenient for you and something that helps keep your life stable, but it's just not true. You don't have to do any of those things. Are there going to be consequences if you don't? Probably. But you could still choose not to do them. You would just have to accept the consequences for your actions. Guys, you're already free. If you want to buy a plane ticket to Timbuktu tomorrow, you can do that. If you want to quit your job and escape the rat race today, tomorrow, you can do that. Nothing's stopping you. You're free to do that. No, I'm not, Luke. I don't have the money. You don't need money to do that, right? I mean, you need money to buy a plane ticket or a credit card, right? But you're free to do that. You may not be capable of doing that, but you are free. It's a big difference. You already have freedom. Whether or not you have power is another question, but you already have freedom, okay? You are free right now. Right now, you're completely free. And the people who don't want to accept that either don't understand it or they're victims, right? Because you think, oh, once I get X, Y, and Z, once I have this, that, and the other, then I'll be free. No. You're kicking the can. You're free now. You're totally free right now. You can experience that freedom or you cannot. It's up to you. Okay? So let me explain the different types of freedom, right? Because there are different types. The freedom you have now, let's say you have a job or school, like something set in stone, right? Like work hours you have to attend to, assignments you have to do, whatever the case may be. You're still free, but what you've done is you've shackled yourself, okay? So right now you have chains. You have chains attached to your wrists and your arms and your legs, and these chains restrict your movement. They restrict what you're able to do because these chains have something attached on the other end, which is an anchor. So that anchor is maybe your job or your school or your commitments, whatever they are. There's these anchors. And those anchors, what they do is they force you to stay in the same general vicinity. You can't veer too far this way. You can't veer too far that way, whether it be in your conduct or your schedule, whatever the case may be. But here's what people don't think about. First of all, like we just said, at any time you can take those chains off, right? You can take those chains off and throw them aside. And then you're free. But it comes at a cost. Whenever you take those chains off, you are given weights. Okay, so you don't have chains anymore. You're free from the matrix. You're out of the 9 to 5. But now you have weights. And the weights that you are given are unmade decisions. All right? When you have shackles and chains that anchor you down, you have far less decisions to make. You don't have to worry about what's appropriate for me to wear to work. You have a uniform. You don't have to worry about what time do I show up. You have clock in, clock out, or you have work hours. You don't have to worry about what am I doing this weekend or what am I doing Monday, because you have schedule, you have routine. You don't have to think about how should I prioritize this work thing or what should I do today at work. You have a boss that can help you with that. You have expectations already set for you. And those are all things that you kind of hate because they anchor you down. But those anchors bear the weight of those decisions and you don't. Okay? So just like an anchor with a chain can restrict your movement, the weights will restrict your movement too. And that's what nobody tells you. These 20-year-old broccoli heads that are online selling you the dream of entrepreneurship, they're not going to tell you about the weights because then you won't buy their course. But they deal with it. They deal with it too. It is the weight of unmet decisions or unmade decisions. And to move forward in spite of that weight, you have to make so many little decisions, big decisions. Every decision that exists outside of an anchor is one you have to make. And it takes a toll. It takes up mental bandwidth. It weighs you down. It slows you down. And so you have to be very good at not only doing what you want with your life, but making all those decisions. When you're chained and anchored down, all you have to do is do. You don't have to make as many decisions, but the weight of decisions will slow you down just as much, if not more, than the anchors and chains. And nobody tells you that, okay? So just understand, to break free from the matrix is simply to realize that you're free. There's nothing you have to do. You just have to realize that every single thing you do is because you want to. You say that you have to do this, you have to do that. Dude, if I put a GUN to your head and I said, give me all your money, you still don't have to give me your money. You're still completely free. Okay? If I force you to give me your money by taking it from you, well, then you didn't really do that, did you? I just took it. I didn't force you to do anything, I just took it. But if I have a gun to your head, well, there, I said it out loud, then you still have a choice. You can choose whether or not to give me your money. You may recount the story to your friends the next day and say that you were forced to give your wallet over, but you weren't. That was a choice you made. Again, though, you have to deal with the consequences or the potential consequences of your decisions. But it's still your decision. You're still free. So to break free from the matrix, like Andrew Tate talks about, understand all that is realizing that you're free. Right now, you're free. Done. You're free from the matrix. The matrix is this system you exist in if you don't think you're free. But when you realize your freedom, that's when you wake up. Okay? So you're free right now. Now that you're free, I want you to consider the advantages of having some anchors in your life versus having burdens of decisions. Okay? For most of you listening to this, just like it was for me, it's going to be to your advantage to have some anchors in your life. Things like your gym workout buddy that you see at the same time every day. Things like your job, things like your church, things like your young adults group at church or whatever the case may be. Things like, every other Sunday after church, I go to my parents for dinner or for lunch, whatever it is. It's going to be helpful for you to have anchors in your life so that the decisions that you have to make are decisions that you want to make, and your mental bandwidth can free up to really crush every other aspect of your life. A lot of you, that's going to be the move you need to make, okay? So consider that. To wrap it all up, if you want to break out of the matrix, you need to find your edge. You need to realize that you're already free, and then you need to figure out, what type of freedom do I want? Do I want a type of freedom where I make my decisions easier by shackling myself to these anchors? Which is just a form of making the decisions in advance, right? You're outsourcing a lot of that decision-making power. It's not a beta move. It's just smart sometimes, okay? Or do I want to untether myself from all anchors and make every decision myself? I found for me as an entrepreneur, it's helpful for me to create my own anchors through the form of social contracts, meetings, live courses I have to show up for, meetings I have to show up for, commitments that I make to the boys. It's very helpful for me to have those anchors in place. So let that sink in, chew it up, food for thought. As always, I appreciate you watching. Leave me some comments and questions down below. I'd happy to continue the discussion. Follow me at NarrowWayMan on Instagram. And if you want to join my men's group, join my inner circle, shoot me a DM over there as well. Catch you guys in the next one.